I think we're all in agreement. This has been an extraordinary summit. And I would like to just go with you a little back in history. 35 years ago, in Miami, Florida, a young rabbi started some educational institutions, believing as he did that education was a fundamental right and goal of all people. He also had an interest, because of faith, belief, and experience, in reforms that could be made in the criminal justice system to deal with defendants more humanely, to be aware of the impact on families, the problem of reentry. And he started an institution, an organization, to deal with these problems. Today, we're the beneficiaries of that vision and that work. This institution was that work that he started in 1981. Rabbi, bless you and thank you. And we're all the beneficiaries of a man's vision, his work, and his beliefs. And we thank you for what you've done and what you continue to do. You are our mentor and our successor of just every good thing that's come about through your efforts, and we thank you for them.
More than 3 million children under the age of 18 have a parent in prison. There's a reason, and this is not a theological discussion, this is a reason why the foundation book on ethics and morality, the Bible, it considers all different modalities of punishment: capital punishment, corporal punishment, financial punishment, but not prison.
We have 5% of the world's population and 25% of the prison population. I think the shocking rate of recidivism is evidence that the system is not working.
The incarceration rate of particularly minorities and the poor was just reprehensible and immoral.
We are now at a point where nearly half of children in this country have a parent with a criminal record. I will let that settle in as people think about that being the legacy of our nation's failed experiment with mass incarceration and over-criminalization.
Well, it was hard because the house that I was in wasn't really stable, and the amount of school time I was able to attend wasn't really much. So the amount of friends that I could make was really limited. So it was the most conversation that I really had is, Kennedy, why aren't you here? Or Kennedy, why aren't you, why are you late all the time? Or the rarest one, Kennedy, why didn't I see you at recess? Why are you in the library?
100 million people living with convictions means that almost someone in every family is touched by this crisis, really. And so individual lives are fractured, families are torn asunder, communities are broken.
The conditions of confinement cases are unbelievable when you see what we put human beings into in so many of these facilities. We've looked at these conditions of confinement, and we've looked at the fact that they don't provide educational and skills, mental health, addiction programming, that they crowd people in these miserable conditions, that we have this kind of not only just violence, but the sexual violence that happens in prisons and jails. Well, the fact is that the more time we keep someone in, the harder it is for them when they get out. It does none of us any good for those people not to be in a position to be successful. The voters are the ones who keep buying into this idea that we have to be tougher on crime. And I think we have to actually look at who's going to be smarter on crime.
Reducing the recidivism rate is critical for real reform. This is the biggest criminal justice reform in our generation. Mandatory minimums are no longer one-way ratchets. Congress can recalibrate and rebalance sentences to make sure that they're doing the job that they were meant to do in the first place. Rehabilitation and recovery are no longer anymore dirty words.
2/3 of federal judges in '96 responded to this survey by saying there ought to be alternative to incarceration programs. DOJ supports them, the FJC supports them, the ABA, right on crime, across the political spectrum.
A large percentage of our prison population is there because of an addiction issue or mental health issue. 80% of every crime is drug-related.
Our prisons became the default, not just the default place of sentencing for judges, but the default mental health hospitals. Until these walls are knocked down and everyone outside this room hears it and understands it, we are working with human beings.
One way we can do better is to divert some of the lowest level offenders from the criminal justice system, offering nonviolent offenders a chance to change their lives and avoid incarceration has proven successful. It reduces recidivism rates, saving taxpayer dollars and reserving jail beds for the more serious criminals. The Second Chance Women's Reentry Court was established. The women who participated in this court turned their lives around in astounding numbers. So in September of 2011, the Los Angeles County Veterans Court was launched. The vast majority of them successfully complete the 18-month program, and the recidivism rate also drops to around 20%.
About 3 years ago, Maryland kicked off a series of efforts. It's an initiative sponsored by the governor, by myself, by prosecutors, by the public defender. It is a broad-based and, I think, holistic approach to alternatives to just sending people away and locking them up.
When you become a judge in a problem-solving court, you take a different look at not only the criminal justice system, but your role as a judge. It requires you to acknowledge what you don't know, and that there are people out there who have knowledge that can inform your decisions. So when you're beginning any kind of diversion, problem-solving, accountability, I call it where compassion meets accountability. If you're beginning any of those projects, it starts with stakeholders. In Brooklyn, our stakeholders included the court system, prosecutors, defense lawyers, treatment providers, mental health specialists, people in the benefits field, the police department, the corrections department, and probation.
Less intuitively, but more importantly, is that criminal justice reform is not just about the system. It's about getting further back in the continuum and working on education. We've got to keep kids in school and think outside the criminal justice system.
We have to talk about the fact that we are in the people business, not the inmate business.
Basically, you got to take the P out of the politics and put it in the people, and out of the partisanship as well, and to make it about people.
I've worked in partisan politics most of my life, and I think there comes a time in your life when you want to do something more significant, and I think you can only really reach that place if you're working across the aisle.
Whenever you see a diverse coalition like this one that defies a lot of expectations that people have, one that bridges traditionally deep divides in our political system, it usually reflects the importance of the issue and says something about the staying power that the issue has. And there's no doubt that the time has come for criminal justice reform in America, as reflected by this diverse and deeply passionate coalition.
So when you have the ACLU and the Tea Party both in the room, you're able to come to a discussion that creates a great bill.
The stories would make you cry out of happiness, turning these people's lives around.
Today, judges and lawyers and prosecutors and law enforcement communities, all of us are engaged in trying to make certain that our system is fair, that we are responding appropriately, whether it's prosecutions, whether it's enforcing laws on the streets, or whether it's sentencing. It takes a collaborative partnership, and that's why I'm so glad that all of us are here committed to making certain that our justice system is the best that it can be.
We should put our minds together and say it's time for change, real change. We need to make some changes in the system.
Ultimately, we as a country are going to have to figure out how to get to forgiveness.